I've been meaning to call y'all about last week since we talking about strong, powerful women. Y'all, I didn't know Debra Lee from BET was an old corporate hoe. Child, mama don't release the book and said she was fucking Don Johnson. Down to the thing, Bob Johnson. I said, do Jesus and do tell. Baby, let me tell y'all something. Debra Lee, I thought Debra Lee was classy based. I thought she was white like this and not like this. And who knew she was laying it low and spreading it wide? Okay, and maybe that, listen, maybe that's why back in the day when she was in charge of BET, we had Uncut, baby, because she was in that office telling Don Johnson, Bob Johnson, tell me what that thing smell like. Won't get kinky tonight. Won't you tell me what that thing smell like? Y'all remember that with BET Uncut came when I used to be in college? Tell me what that thing smell like. Who would have knew? But you know what? I'm highly disappointed in Debra Lee, and I honestly feel like she should have taken this secret to her grave, and here is why. Within the Black community and within the general business, entertainment, media community as a whole, we only have very few Black figures and faces that are held in a high regard and can be sat at the same table with the Anna Wintours and the editors of Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and heads of Fox and Viacom and all of those things. Bob Johnson, Debra Lee, Suzanne DePaz, was that her name? The editor, former editor of Essence. You know, all of these people are heroes in our community who had untarnished, clean legacies that gave young people of color something to aspire to. And the fact that you would so haphazardly damage and ruin all of that for the sake of selling some damn books.
Welcome. Hey, I feel like I haven't been here in like a month of Sundays. Hey, in the zone. Sean's back. I know it's been a couple of weeks. Last week I was ill. The week before that, my daughter was ill. It's been a lot of viruses running through my house, but I'm back. And I'm back with a very intriguing topic. As you notice, I'm without either of my co-hosts, which is okay. I have ran shows by myself before, but I have two. First of all, I got one of our favorite alums, Erica.
Hey, y'all!
Hey, boo. Hey. I feel like you ain't been on here in a long time since we talked about sex in the bedroom.
Yeah, because y'all only call me when it's stuff like this.
Oh, we talked about having sex in the bedroom.
And now we talking about this.
Oh, damn. It's always about sex. I'm sorry. We're gonna bring you on for something that ain't got shit to do with sex. My bad. And I think you all know how I love to pop the ITZ cherry for all of our newcomers. So we got a newcomer. At least I think he's a newcomer.
I am.
He's a newcomer to me.
Yes.
Terrence, hello, Terrence. Welcome to ITZ. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Are you excited? You telling us you were nervous?
I am nervous. I am nervous.
nervous.
I mean, you know, it's my cherry. First of all, if I appreciate the sanctity of a cherry.
I have a lot of virginities I've taken over here, so you're in good hands.
Easy.
So we won't haze you too badly.
Okay.
You really got to worry about the audience. We're gonna be nothing compared to that.
Yeah, I wasn't realizing we were gonna be able to see the live feed of the comments as we go.
But they are smart as a whip. They always have fascinating questions. So don't worry. This is gonna be a good time. This is gonna be a good time. You here to have a good time?
Absolutely.
I know Erica's always here to have a good time.
Absolutely.
Not for a long time. Here for a good time.
So let's kind of get into the topic, and I'm going to set the groundwork. I don't know how much either of you know about Debra Lee and Bob Johnson outside of what Funky. Shout out to Funky.Neva, one of my favorite bloggers. I don't know if you guys boned up and brushed yourselves up on what happened between Bob Johnson and Debra Lee.
Yeah.
Just a smidge.
Everybody's up to snuff. Okay, well, I'll give a very high level view of what happened. So, according to Debra Lee, and court documents, because this did go to court and she won.
It did go to court.
They did go to court and they won. She had, I think, a 20-year affair or around 20-year affair with Bob Johnson. They were both married at the time. About 10 years in, she went to Bob and told him that she no longer wanted to have an affair with him. I think she was just going through a life change. I think she also was going through a divorce at that time. And then Bob was like, you know what? Cool. Totally understand. You're not going to be fucking me no more. You're not working at BET no more. And you're not working at any other media companies ever. But I wish you well. So Debra Lee had a choice to make at that time, whether she was going to, stay fucking Bob Johnson or be blackballed in the media company. So according to her, she decided to continue the affair. Because am I saying anything incorrect? No. She continued the affair until Bob Johnson left BET, which she then became the next CEO of BET and was the next CEO, I think, for like another 5 or 6 years. And she is currently writing a book depicting that aspect and many other aspects of her career. To my earlier point, she did take him to court to sue and won, as well as I think 15 other women sued Bob Johnson for sexual harassment, and they all won. So I think that is also an important point to note.
Very important.
So before we begin, right, I know, Erica, you have an executive level position where you work, correct?
Correct.
Terrence, you as well?
I've been in leadership before.
Okay. Well, my bad. Sorry. So
not currently.
So you have held lead positions.
Yeah.
So I guess, given your very prestigious positions, and we'll start with Terrence since he's the newbie in the group.
Wow. Start with me.
Well, who else you think I'm starting with?
Ladies
Jake?
first.
No.
Newbies first.
We always want chivalry then when it's selective, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Selective chivalry.
Yeah.
Now that I've laid out the groundwork and whatever you've read or knew prior to, what are your initial thoughts about what Debra Lee shared? Do you think she's just a raggedy hoe, or
wow?
Is there something merit to what she said? Just give me a high level idea of what you.
At least here's what I'll tell you. When I first saw the story on my timeline, was it last week or more when it broke? I kind of just glanced at it and then thought, okay, why is she telling the story now? It felt very opportunistic because she's got a book coming up, and both Debra Lee and Bob Johnson are kind of on the back end of like being in the news and being, in mainstream media.
That's fair. They're on the not twilight years, but they're coming to closer to the end of their careers than the beginning, for sure.
Yeah. And so when I saw it, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the story, quite frankly, and I just kind of just glanced at it and just kept it moving because again, I felt like it was that book tour. Let me bring that salacious fact or event and sell his book. Okay, I have to agree with what you said, funky
Dineva.
I have to agree with some
name?
of what he said in that. It to me felt very opportunistic in that regard.
Well, I guess my question would be, right, if you're writing a book, right, about your life, wouldn't you, in order, because we're a capitalist society, right? Everybody want to make some money. Wouldn't you want to highlight the most salacious part of your book in order to sell some books? I mean, the question has to be asked, right? Like, I'm just,
I guess if I look at it and you start talking about books and my career, my legacy, I wouldn't want my legacy, my career be associated with that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I felt like from what I know of Debra Lee, she's had a phenomenal career.
She has.
She's had a phenomenal career. I think, and when I came back in recognizing that I had to get prepared for our conversation this evening.
I appreciate when people bone up getting ready. I love it.
It was that Cliff Notes version. let me pull it back.
You don't know how many people come in here like, I have no idea what you guys talk about. Let's talk about it though.
Yeah, it was real surface level. I'm not gonna profess to have studied up on Debra Lee and Bob Johnson, but I just was like, all right, let me find out exactly a little bit more so I can at least speak somewhat intelligently. But one of the things I read in the article that Debra Lee had was that she wanted to, and I don't know if the timing of this in it being Women's Empowerment Month and kind of women's internet. What is it?
It's
Women's
International
History
Wish
Month.
Month.
Woman, exactly. I didn't know if the timing of that just happened to be, but I know in the article she talked about really trying to hold herself out there as an example for women and so forth. And I guess where I'm going with that is I felt like her career has so much more depth than that. And now all of us are talking. Only thing we talking about is her and Bob Johnson.
That's a very fair point. All right, let's bring Erica in. So Erica, I don't know if you boned up quite as thoroughly as Terrence over here, but given my very high level synopsis and colorful synopsis, what are your thoughts? You're a woman in leadership. I'm sure you've dealt with maybe some mild levels of sexual harassment. I'm going to call it sexual harassment because
I have not.
the courts
I have.
dictated such. But what are your thoughts on what Debra Lee shared?
So I saw her interview on Good Morning America. So I got the story from her mouth as she was telling it on GMA. And I think that she has the right to tell her story no matter what it is.
That's fair.
I think that we are crucifying this woman for telling her truth that was proven in court.
Very important point.
We're crucifying this woman for telling her story when it's hers to tell. Her telling her story does not take away from the fact that she was successful. It does not take away from the fact that she ran BET and ran it marvelously. She's just giving an account of her experience with someone who people thought was one thing and found out that he was something else. So I don't think it tarnishes her legacy. I don't think it tarnishes, well, maybe his a little bit, but I don't think it tarnishes her legacy. But I also don't think it's her responsibility to protect his legacy. And what we're asking another Black woman to do is protect another Black man that has harmed her. And we have tendency to expect Black women to protect Black men even when their behaviors are destructive.
Yikes. I wasn't going to go there, but thank you.
You're welcome.
So, ruin BET, bring back the
I'm with it.
No,
the basement.
I want uncut. Back. Uncut.
I need to drill.
Give me in my mind. So, my thoughts, right? I think. So I will say this. Initially, my initial thought was like, who cares? Bob Johnson and Debra Lee are in. I don't have a better way of saying this. The twilight years of their careers, right? And I did see the GMA interview. So when she initially talked, I was like, well, first of all, I knew she won the lawsuits. I was like, well, why are we bringing this up? Who cares, right? But she said something very interesting in the interview that, you know, this whole Me Too thing, it's very important that women can see that harassment isn't just what's his bucket from Lionsgate, right? A dude showing up in a robe at the front at the hotel door. Yeah. And harassment isn't necessarily pinching your ass by the water cooler, right? Yeah. And I would say for all intents and purposes, and I know there's some people out there are very opinionated about what she did, and that's what we're here to kind of talk about. Outside of that, just the whole sexual harassment at a corporate level, right? That because she was successful, because she made a lot of money, because she holds a very prestigious position, that for some reason her story of harassment is invalidated. And I want to dig into that because that begs a lot of questions, right? Like, because I have a lot of money, does that mean that my story of harassment is invalidated? Because maybe I was okay with it at one point, but decided I wasn't at another. Does that also make it valid? Yep. Does that invalidate it, right? Yep. And I guess, Erica, the questions that I'm having, right? Because a lot of people having all this commentary, she's a hoe, blah, blah, blah. Let's start there. Yep. Is she a hoe? No. Is she a corporate hoe? No. And does her level of success, all the accolades that she's gotten, invalidate her story?
It does not. And so here's the thing. We want to try to pretend as if a woman doesn't get to change her mind about a relationship. she didn't call him out on their indiscretions while she was in the relationship. She didn't sleep with him and then be like, "Oh, you harassed me," and now, like, she said that she admitted that it was a relationship.
Mhm.
She admitted that it was a consensual relationship. What she said was, once I decided I no longer wanted to be in the relationship, he held my career over my head. That doesn't make her a whore. She said that it was consensual. Like, she admitted to the relationship. Like, if y'all want to
Right.
go in on her for the fact that she slept with her superior, whatever, she said that he was a mentor and they had a relationship. And plenty of people fall into intimate sexual relationships with people who they have close relationships with. That's not uncommon. He just happened to be a boss. But I think it's unfair to try to invalidate her career, her experience, her sexual harassment claims, or call her a whore, for
Right.
lack of a better term, because, well, that's not a lack of a better term. That's what y'all calling her.
I was gonna say,
Y'all, what y'all calling the lady?
I was gonna let you
That
roll,
is
Eric.
what y'all
I was gonna
calling
let
the
you
lady.
Right.
I
Right.
ain't called her that, but that's what y'all calling
Right.
the lady.
Well, I don't-
Because she consented to a sexual relationship and then changed her mind. Why didn't she get to? You change your, not you. I don't know you, but people change their minds
Right,
about who they
right.
sleep with all the time.
and I feel like the labeling of her as a hoe or anything like that's out of bounds. I don't think that's even necessary.
But is it though?
But is
Because
it?
in all fairness,
Mhm.
and let me, before I'm about to go into this fucking rant, the term hoe I find so exhausting and just really
Exhausting.
overused.
Cut it the fuck out.
But with that said,
Wait, can I cuss on the internet?
really, you've been here like 15,000 times.
I don't
Today
cuss.
is the day that you want to
Cut
ask, can
it
you
the
curse?
fuck out. Go ahead.
But given that, right, from what we understand of what a hoe is
Right.
she in fact a hoe? A corporate hoe at that, because you know she
Well,
sees.
what's the definition of a hoe?
Well,
Jay, can we pull up the definition of a hoe?
right.
We all like to work on the same definition. It's important here. Language is important on ITZ.
Not a whore, a hoe.
Hoe.
Not the
garden tool.
garden tool.
A long-handed garden tool with a
Not the garden tool one.
The Urban Dictionary. You gotta get the Urban.
We need the
Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary definition of hoe. She's a hoe.
Oh, yeah. So we working. The mother of a wait. What?
Wait, huh?
The person reading this is probably wondering if they are a hoe or not.
This
Wait,
is
what
terrible.
is what's
This
the
is
top
terrible.
one?
Absolutely.
What?
Yeah.
It's like this isn't working. Okay.
Urban Dictionary
Wait,
has failed us.
girl,
Okay, fine.
Okay,
We'll
do
go with that. And I take volunteers for reading because reading out loud, I still have trauma from grammar school and free.
A girl who goes after every guy, says slutty things, doesn't care about anyone but herself and boys, and wears clothes to try to make her look like she has a butt. What?
Who wrote this whack ass definition?
One of the
Like a
Caucasian
sixth grader wrote this.
persuasion. Keep going. Go to something else.
Someone who shares themselves
that's
around.
probably more accurate.
Okay.
Someone who shares themselves around, because it's not a woman, it's someone.
Okay. Even though that's
A gender neutral
incredibly vague term. But okay.
Gender
somebody who-
neutral.
I mean, okay, I think we all can agree a hoe, whether
Is
female or male or binary or non-binary or trans or whatever you are, is a person who has sex with a significant amount of people. Now, significant is very subjective, but it's a significant amount of people, right?
Or
right.
you know, but it also could be an individual that has sex for the gain of the sex.
Oh, important.
So it don't necessarily it does. Is it always tied to quantity? It's not always tied to quantity. We want
there is the flexibility of being a hoe.
Wait. Okay, wait. So wait, no,
because we need to get into that. Yes.
I had a question.
Yes.
What was the timeline of events?
Oh, I got nothing.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
In terms of what?
I don't know.
In terms of what happened and when?
Until she slept with him and her rise to all this. So to that point, right? Because that's been a
wait. I'm sorry.
I thought you were Googling.
I am.
You looking for the timeline. So back to her being a hoe. I think, right? Terrence,
Ma'am.
is she, ma'am?
Yes.
We like the same age. What are we doing here?
I mean, I'm being
I know I
respectful.
look youthful,
Right.
but we the same age.
How do you know?
Anyway, is she in fact a corporate hoe? Terrence, you are not here to him and haw. You are here to have an opinion.
Is
Have
she a
said
corporate
opinion.
hoe?
We think Brian definitely is uttering
It's
that.
hard to say though, because I mean, and here's
Say that.
it's hard to say in this instance, because I mean, what came first, the chicken or the eggs? Did she have her ascension as she was trying to figure out timeline before said, horizontal shuffling, or did she, get the ascension or did she, or was she home first and then got this?
That's so why would that make it different?
And here's what I say: the screw up.
You're here for your opinion, so whatever you say is yours.
Right. The screwy thing here is she and Bob could have honestly been into each other, and
it was 20 years, I would assume.
Right. And per the article, in her words, she said they went places together. Mm-hmm. So I think the tough thing there is because of the affair. Whatever happens gets clouded. Whatever she gets, whatever accolades, people always look at it, and it, sadly, not saying it's justified, but it becomes tainted. Like, all right, you only got that because of this. You only did this because of that.
Okay,
and that's the unfortunate circumstance.
She got the timeline, people. She ready.
I don't have a timeline, but let's talk about this.
Okay,
let's talk about what was said versus what y'all think.
Oh, damn. Well, damn,
because I'm
at my hair.
Internet. Sick.
So you sick of them, not me, because
the internet always got something to say, and they don't be knowing nothing. Okay, so she said, I worked for Bob Johnson for 10 years before we had a personal romantic relationship. He was a mentor, and he pushed me, and he was responsible for a lot of my success.
Which I got questions about that, but okay.
Lee alleged the affair started when they were both married and continued after they were divorced. At that point, people knew about the relationship. The company knew. We started going places together.
Oh, so they were dating.
They were dating.
They were dating.
They were in a relationship. When Lee wanted to break up with Johnson, she claimed her job and career were held over her head. It was like, well, if you want to break up with me, then you can leave tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that was 20 years into my career at BET. So I would have lost everything. Adding that it would be hard for her to get a new job without his recommendation. She was embarrassed to talk to her family, blah, 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 blah. Bob left the company and I became CEO. I was CEO for 13 years without him being there and able to live my dream without any form of harassment. At times it felt consensual because we were out in public. But after Me Too and Time's Up, I sort of reevaluated the whole thing and said, was this really my choice?
So see, now I think that's a very important distinction, right?
Correct.
That, and I had to go through this. We had a episode a few months ago where we talked about rape. And I had to look back on a situation that at the time I did not consider it. And looking back with like newer, fresher, older eyes, I'm like, oh shit. While it wasn't like somebody raping me in the alley, it was in fact coercion.
Consensual.
It was non-consensual and it was coercion, right? So now with these newer, fresher eyes to her, and here, Brian, I fucking hate his ass.
Get out the chat. You should have been here.
It's a very important distinction, right? Like it started off as an affair. She's very clear about that. It turned into a relationship. Right?
Correct.
She had already been there for X amount of years. Before they even started fucking, right? Had made her reputation. Everybody in the company knew they were fucking, and she still maintained her reputation. Kept going up in the ranks. So much so when Bob left, they replaced her as CEO.
Correct.
I mean, you have to look at this, right? Like, you may want to say she fucked to the top, but you can't fuck the person who leaves and then the people who are left behind, like, you fucked them so good, let me make you CEO.
That just not happening. It just does not work that way.
I agree. And so that's the thing I'm saying. She was doing her thing outside of that relationship. But the relationship does cloud some people's judgment of her.
But why? Is it fair for it to cloud?
I'm not saying it is.
But I am asking you.
But she's asking,
But it is. It's just the
she's asking who
reality.
does it. So let's talk about misogyny, shall we?
Oh, goddamn, she is coming with
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying it's just the reality. Because here's the thing. I'm not.
No.
The last thing I
we
say.
brought you here to be a bro.
Because here's the thing. As we sit here talking about, okay, well, she had every right to change, her perspective or her want of the relationship and say no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about it now. But again, as I shared earlier, we're not talking about her damn career. We talking about her fucking this dude. We done forgot all about what she's done in that time. It clouds, it overshadows everything.
Men have.
Who has?
Well, in all fairness, Erica, let's be fair, right?
No,
a lot
of women keeping this up.
No, wait a goddamn minute. Both of y'all, it's equal parts man and woman. Calling her all the hoes.
You're right, because women. Never mind. That's another podcast.
Yes. It's gonna be me and you on a podcast about misogyny.
Can we talk about? Can we talk about misogyny and?
I want to talk about respectability politics. Actually,
okay,
talk about that now.
No. Yeah, go.
Is part of the issue, and I'm gonna start with Erica with this. Is part of the issue of why this overshadows her career? Because I don't disagree with you that her disclosing, even though it was public record, because there was a whole lawsuit.
I forgot about that.
It's public record, so it's out there. Anybody could have found this out. So she was basically telling it something you all could have known a long ass time ago, right? Now, how can we talk about misandry? How the fuck did we get on misandry? Y'all are crazy. What was my damn question?
He said, "What's the difference between coercion and persuasion?"
Let's talk about that then. What is the difference between coercion and persuasion? I feel like we need definition, Jake. Jake has become like
he's a Webster.
Dictionary.com. But I get. Go ahead, finish your question.
I guess my question is, is what at play here is respectability politics, right? Where we have this idea that, and actually it's probably like the good Negro, right? That actually is really at play here, right? Which is kind of a spinoff of respectability politics, that Black people have to be so ultra perfect. We can't do anything wrong. And the moment that we do all of our hard work, regardless of whatever the wrong is, right? Whether we fucked the boss, whether we stole some money, whether we, whatever, insert a bad activity, right? That all of a sudden we are the bad Negro. We're no more part of the talented 10th. Shout out to Brian Foster. He knows how much I hate that damn term. Is this really respectability politics at play? Can we just stop being the perfect Negro at some point?
I would say that that's the case if we were talking about men.
Oh, shit. She did not come to play today. Okay.
I don't think that people even went that deep because she's a Black woman. I think it was, she's a Black woman, she fucked up all, she's a hoe. I don't think respectability politics came into this at all. I don't think anybody cared if she was a good Negro or a bad Negro. Nobody cared because she's a woman.
But I think
she slept with her boss.
I would argue
so she's a hoe,
because I think what Dineva was saying was speaking to
him. He was speaking to Bob. He was not speaking to, and he is. Don't he use pronoun she? Anyway,
no, he uses he.
He uses he.
He does.
Okay, I was just okay. I didn't know. Yeah. So. He was not speaking to Debra and her legacy. He was speaking to Bob and his legacy. His comments were, they're the only ones that we have to look up to. But then everything else he said after that was about Bob.
Okay.
Well, I think he was kind of talking about all of that. Bob and her and Debra Lee are the only Black executives of a network at that time.
I didn't play the full clip because he does continue
to talk
about.
Okay.
What he says later on in the clip is that Bob, he expects to have poor behavior, so he's not gonna fucking talk about Bob. He expects her to behave better because I promise you, I'll bring the clip back
because it's a split between her legs,
right? But he talks about like men are gonna be able, and he gets into the whole patriarchy thing. He was like, "Look, it's patriarchy. I don't give a fuck. I expect her to behave better, right?"
I don't. Bob doesn't get a pass no more than she does.
I appreciate that.
You know,
Why do either of them need a pass for being consenting adults having a
that's
relationship?
a good no, and I don't think that's what I don't think it was that was the issue there. I think the issue with their dynamic is the fact that when she was ready to be done, he was like, no.
So why are we talking about
Deborah
Deborah and not talking about Bob?
Because she fucked him. You know why?
No, I want y'all to admit to the bullshit.
He's a piece of dirt. He is. He's a piece of dirt. That's what you want to hear. But we all knew that though. But that everybody knew that.
What I want to hear.
But I think that's everybody. Everyone knew that Bob Johnson wasn't Jack.
So why are we talking about Deborah telling her story instead of talking about the fact that she was sexually harassed and assaulted on her job?
Because I think for her it becomes. And here's the thing. Here's what it is. We know Bob and what he is. And it doesn't give him a pass. It just means that Bob is Bob, right? Mm. Our perception of Deborah Lee by that situation is sort of shattered in a certain sense, right? And because she's still a dynamic woman, again, we ain't talking about that. We talking about this shit.
In all fairness, she did put it out. But Erica,
and I agree, and I think it didn't do her any service. Though.
But Erica, you know that, and Chris the Critic, shout out to Chris the Critic. I was just on Chris the Critic. Chris says this all the time. He says men are stupid, and it's basically women's job to manage men's stupidity. And if you look at it from that scope, that's why everybody's fucking pissed off. Because we expect Bob Johnson to, pinch women's asses and fuck them on the boardroom table. Like, that's the expectation. But it's Deborah's job to keep him at bay, right? To keep his dick in check. I'm not saying I agree with this perspective. What I am saying is this is how people think. That it's women's job to manage men's, what's the word I'm looking for? Sexual appetite. It's our job. We supposed to be like, I can't fuck you. No, go fuck your wife. Like, that's our job. And I push back on this idea because it can't be our job to manage your fucking dick.
Fact.
I got a million other things to do. I can't manage your dick.
I'm not doing it. And furthermore, what if she didn't want to manage it? What if she wanted it? She wanted it. And that's okay. Why can't she want it and still be a professional, successful woman?
You already, because she's a woman.
Erica, come on now. I'll be so sick of these people. And I'm going to use all of my ebonics on tonight. I'll be so sick of y'all.
But these are, to Terrence's earlier point, right? We have to deal with what is so.
And I don't have to deal with nothing.
Well, I mean, you fine.
You create your reality.
I agree with these people. I agree. But
Debra,
the argument here is
fucking girl.
Let's be clear about something, right? Deborah Lee is a multi-millionaire. She is somewhere on Central Pay chilling while we arguing whether she a hoe or not.
She's looking at Amazon in New York.
And
New York Times.
What?
Like, is my book selling?
What? She's looking at the stock market like, how's the S&P 500?
Say
like,
what?
She's thinking about fucking none of us.
Say what?
This is really a blip on her radar. But I think what's important here is for us to look at how we are examining it, right? Because I have gotten to a place where I'm just like, well, why am I having these thoughts? Like, why do I give a shit if she's a hoe or not? How does what happened to Deborah Lee impact me, right? Like, what is the lesson to learn here? I think that is the kind of things I want to examine for our people. And I do think we play a lot of respectability politics, right? That women have to be a certain way, that Black people have to be a certain way. So back to it's called delusion. Well, goddamn, sir.
I don't understand what's delusion. What's the delusional part?
But she can manage her pussy. It's called delusion. I mean, but she wanted to fuck him. So what is there to manage?
Right. It's her.
But see, these go to the respectability politics of it all, right?
If that's what she wanted to do, well, can't that be what she wanted to do? He said, Sue said, what way do women have to be?
They don't have to be anyway.
He's asking because you said that women have to be a certain way.
What I'm saying is, as far as how we understand patriarchy, right? How we understand being an American human being. women have to do, and Tu talks about this all the time. Women have to dress a certain way. If you dress a different way, you a hoe, right? You have to hit these certain benchmarks to be considered a respectable woman, right? You can't overtalk men, right? You have to talk to men a certain way. You can't fuck too many men. Whoa, we can't even get to the fucking conversation about your fucking body count because that shit will teeter into hold'em real fast, right? If you go over 10, you automatically a hoe depending on whose perspective you're looking at. Like I think people forget, and I'm not saying it's right, but there are so many things you have to consider as a woman to be not only considered a woman, but not have to be those judgment benchmarks on you. It's, and I don't expect men to understand it, but it's a juggling act. It is considerable juggling act. And I'm not saying men don't have to do it, but since I have a pussy, I can only speak from the pussy carrying perspective.
Well, creating your own. Let me address this real quick, because creating your own reality is not called delusion. It's called I don't give a fuck what you think. And I think that men have a problem when women say, I don't give a fuck what you think. Y'all get mad. Like, something wrong with us that we don't really give a fuck about what y'all think.
Something is wrong with us because you don't give a fuck what you think.
Like, there is a percentage of women out there who really just don't care. What? Yes, you do. You care because you're sitting here talking about Debra's a hoe and she is richer than all of us. And I don't use the money argument very often. So I'll use it in Debra's case because she's a billionaire. But
is she a billionaire?
Or a multi-million. Mm-hmm. She's not billion, but multi-millionaire. So I'll use it in her case. But for the most part, a lot of us don't care. A lot of women don't care. We just don't tell y'all what we do.
Terrence, would you like to hop in? I know you had commentary earlier.
You just dropping the mic like that? Like, Terrence.
This is my job. If you didn't know, I'm pretty good at my job.
Like, how would you like to follow that up?
No, seriously though. Like, I think, and look, I'm not here to have like the man-woman debate at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at some point you always have the man-woman debate, right? And I don't know if men realize how we have women like, you have to do this in order to be considered a good girl. You have to be, if you do this, you're a hoe. And you can't escape the whole monarchy as long as you live on the earth.
Men have it too.
How?
What man is scared of being a hoe?
I just saw this.
Please tell me.
I just saw in a different way. In a different way. I was just
y'all afraid of being a hoe?
No. It was and it was I was in an online, and someone they were talking about, it was Black fathers. It was a group of Black fathers. Okay. And they were saying, you know, if you do this, you're that. If you do this, you're deadbeat. And so it was a little different argument, but it is the same argument in the sense that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, you know. And so I think you all see it as y'all frame it around the whole conversation. But black and definitely Black men have it too.
I'm not arguing whether we, and that goes to the question at hand, right? The talented tent, the perfect Negro.
Doesn't exist.
Is it fucking time for us to give up these dumb ass nomenclatures of trying to meet up to some expectation to be a good Negro? Terrence.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't exist.
We know it don't exist.
Right.
That don't stop us from trying to do it.
It's killing us in ourselves in the process, you know?
Delve into that, please. Tell me more about this.
Because I think you look at, you know, as we have these conversations about Debra Lee, for instance, we're spending a lot of energy as we talked about Debra Lee and Bob Johnson, and these marks are somewhere sitting on a yacht. And I think about it.
Are they together?
Probably so, honey.
Drinking champagne like stupid assholes.
Probably toasting
you know, and they like, hey, you know.
Fuck them.
Yeah. Right.
And so, millions on this book.
Right. Like my book is selling. Let's go.
Let's get it.
You know, and so we're sitting here machinating over, you know, whether she a hoe, you know, Bob Johnson. We know he a hoe or is he not a hoe, all that shit. You know, and the reality is Bob Johnson and Debra Lee were just, as we all are, imperfect humans. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's just it. You know, and so their shit is just out there on Front Street because of really their lifestyle, their what they did for a living, who they work for, and at the level at which they operated. You know, if they weren't CEOs and executives, they just would be just Joe Blow right here on the street dealing with their own shit.
So I agree with you, number one. And number two, should we still consider them heroes? Given their fallacy, given...
Yes.
I need you to dig more into that. I realize I asked a yes or no question. Give me more.
Because here's the thing. We got to realize heroes are not perfect. Heroes are shit we see. Perfect heroes are comic books. And they ain't even, they not even perfect. You know, for my nerds out there that, you know, that read Batman, there are tons of imperfections in the comic books when you read them. So to think that our heroes are not our heroes because they have their faults, we'd be a fool about, you know, some of the Dr. Martin Luther Kings of the world, the Malcolm X's of the world. They all had their faults outside of just the things we saw in front of the TV and in news, the things, the scandals of their actual politics, you know, is what I'm trying to say. There's other stuff behind the scenes that at the end of the day, you like, if we would actually see him and pull the curtains back, you'd be like, ooh, do I really like you?
I wish that society would get to the place where women would be treated with that same level of honor and with that same level of grace, because we just simply are not. If the stories,
Fucking Batman's a psycho. That's
if the stories about MLK had been about his beloved wife, we will be telling a different story about Coretta. You know MLK.
I know he was a whore.
Right.
The big old whore.
So if we were saying that Coretta was a whore,
oh yeah,
it would be a different story. But the history books would be telling a different story.
That's true. It'd be how dare you?
How dare she? He was the greatest man in the history of Black America.
And that's why.
How dare she?
But to your point, Erica, that's why I feel like this conversation about Debra being a whore, I don't really think it's a really relevant one. I don't think it's a fair comparison of her.
Correct.
You know, I don't think it's appropriate. You know what I mean? Because if we're going to your point, going to use that as the lens we look at everything, we'd be saying and applying it to a whole lot of folks.
But we do. That's the thing.
She told her story. She told her story.
We do.
So can I pose a question?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
No questions from you. Now, just kidding.
I want to pose a question to the room and the room. A lot of people say MLK was a whore.
Who's a whore? The fucking FBI got documentation on it. It's the bitches he was fucking to. Stop it. Now you are very, very smart, and I know you fucking know this, so don't do that too.
So let's say, because you're the only man in the room, I'm gonna ask.
Well, Jake is here. Don't do that. Jake is here.
Well, he's not on camera, and I'll also ask this to the online audience. So let's say you're friends with a woman. And you and this woman are really good friends, and she wants to do the same. What do you do for a living? Career field?
He's
general.
in a leadership position.
General, just give me general.
Marketing field.
Okay, so you're in marketing. So let's say you're mentoring a young woman, and she wants to be in marketing, and you're showing her the ropes, and you're networking with her, and you're introducing her to your connections, and then as you guys spend all this time together, you find yourself attracted to her. So now y'all are flirting, and then the flirting goes too far. Are you married? Okay, you're not.
No longer.
Okay. So now you're sleeping with the girl. So now y'all are friends, and y'all sleeping together, and everybody holding each other's secrets, blah, 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 blah. Does that make her a hoe?
No.
Okay. Let's continue. So
you know you're the only one that holds that value.
I'm saying. So let me finish the story. Now y'all are friends, and now you're getting promoted, and you're rising the ranks, and now you're getting promoted, and every time you get promoted, your mentee gets an uptick with you. She's still your mentee. She started as your mentee. So you get promoted, you're like, come with me. Come on, sis. Right? Every time you get a new job, she get a new job. And you're rising the ranks, and you're not gonna leave her behind because that's your girl.
Which is how it should.
I'm not
Black people, that's how you should
Right,
outrun. But
Right, I
anyway.
ain't gonna leave you. Come on, girl. And then y'all do what y'all do. Get married. Y'all had kids. Y'all still friends. And then one day she's like, I'm getting divorced. I really need to find myself. I don't really want to be sleeping with nobody. You, my ex-husband, none of you hoes. I don't want none of you.
Mhm.
Right? Do you get to hold her career over her head? Did you make her?
I would actually argue they did kind of sort of. But
Really?
I mean, here's the
Really?
thing. But here's the thing. In that moment, are you speaking from truth or are you speaking from your feelings?
Truth. I'm speaking from truth.
I mean,
Are
she just
you?
laid down. She
But
just
are
laid
you
down
though?
bullet
But
points.
here's my point though. When you make that allegation, that statement of what you're saying, you made it because of this. Are you speaking from facts? Or are you speaking from your
I get what you're
feelings?
saying. Yeah.
Because now I'm hurt.
Why are you hurt?
Oh, yeah.
God,
See, that's a good point. Because we think men don't have feelings.
Right.
We think that y'all don't
Y'all
have
think we some cold, concrete
We do.
creatures. No.
Y'all got to kind of take some accountability on
We
that.
think y'all
though,
don't
What's
have
that?
feelings.
y'all got to take some accountability on why women feel that way. Because y'all, granted, society has trained y'all to be real, like, stoic and like I don't have any feelings, but y'all
Right.
got to be accountable that y'all feed into that like I don't get hurt fucking bitches. Like
But-
y'all play that
Yeah.
role all
You're
the
ready
time.
for a man to have feelings.
I am.
I want all the men
Get
to
the
have
hell
the,
out
I
of
want
here.
all the men
The
to
moment
cry.
a man come with feelings, y'all be like, man, buck up.
That's lies. You know how many men I've seen cried like snot bubbles coming out their nose cry. I've absolutely seen it.
I will say that there's a certain type of woman that can handle a man's emotions. Not all of us can.
Right.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair.
The women that say that men can't order dessert is the ones don't want to see them crying.
Wait, who the fuck is that? Wait a minute. I have
That's
been on
another
Facebook
podcast.
for a minute.
That's
You
another
can't-
podcast.
Y'all can't order dessert? That's how these women
they can't order dessert.
Why we can't
They
like
can't
sugar?
order
We
appetizers.
can't like sugar?
Y'all can't
take
have no
food
Kimberly
home.
Y'all
They
to bring
can't
me
take
back
food
for that one. I like
home.
my damn desserts. Shit.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know y'all couldn't
That's
order
another-
flowers,
that's
chocolate
another-
cake.
Yeah, that's another.
But I think though, if we be real, you said damn, you said men play into it, right?
For sure.
But I think that there's men play into it, but I also think that how many men have been in situations where they haven't been able, it's not a safe space for them to
That's
fucking be.
completely fair.
Right.
And I've gotten to a place where I realized that you all aren't always offered the safe space to be able to cry.
Rarely.
Okay, I'm
I'm gonna stake
rephrase.
the flag on that shit right here. For us men out there, we rarely have that safe space.
Y'all really have the space to be vulnerable enough. Nigga can't like brown cake.
I ain't saying
Apparently
it.
not.
That's them little girls. I'll find y'all the post. I'll send them to y'all.
Can you please add me to
That's
those
them
threads?
20-year-olds.
Because I got lots to say.
Yeah.
They can't even like creme brulee. That's crazy. But you are correct, and I concede to that point. You all are not allocated space, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, again, non-binary, whatever. You all very rarely are offered the spaces to be that level of vulnerable. 1,000%.
100%. And I can say that as a man at this point in my life, based upon my own journey, also based upon talking to other men. So as we talk amongst ourselves, and then y'all talk about, oh, well, we want more men to be more. Y'all gotta realize there's a woman raising a man somewhere. We ain't fucking get that way on our own.
Fair.
And so there's some accountability in that. We want men to be all in tune with our emotions, but that there's a lot of ownership in why we are not there.
1,000%. The community as a whole shapes little boys. I mean, I've seen little 3-year-old boys. They daddy, they mommy's like, you can't cry.
We'd be like,
Like, he just
suck
get
that
his
up.
knee.
Suck it up.
What are you talking about? He can't cry. That hurt.
Suck it up.
I'm 40 years old and I'm still like, owie.
Yeah.
Ain't hurt. Get up.
Yeah, like that's. I mean, I get it as a parent why you like don't cry, but yeah, they should be allowed the space to have the emotion.
And I think in the African American community, it's a little heightened.
Yeah.
I would not argue with you on that.
Yeah.
I think from what I can see, the white community has moved a little forward on letting boys have emotion. We lagging behind a little bit. Oh shit, we calling black mamas to account. To stop it. I it's always clear that
Not today.
the community, whether male or female, binary, non-binary, gay, straight, we all contribute to Black boys not being able to express their emotions. We all have a hand in that, 1000%. They don't want what conversation? I just said it. There's nothing to converse about.
he was in midstream of typing it. That's all. He's still hitting enter though. He's still hitting enter.
I don't want it to be missed in this dialogue that Debra still had a successful career. That when he left BET, they still made her CEO, and she was CEO for 13 years.
And they didn't make her CEO because she was sucking his dick.
No,
that did not happen.
I agree with you.
She held it down for 13 years without him being anywhere near her. So let's not discount her talent, her contributions to the culture. Because I like BET.
Or her subtraction.
And she brought Uncut. Debra Lee is the reason for Uncut. So
because here's the thing, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have had criticism of BET at times.
Oh, how could you be Black and not?
You know, and I felt like in many instances BET didn't represent the culture as thoroughly and as well as it could have and should have, given the placement in our community.
How do you know? Maybe the PhD level head. Wait, huh?
Okay, wait.
To you too, I think we missed Uncut is more proof. More proof of what?
He's saying that after Bob left, there's no evidence that she wasn't still being superhead with like the board.
Oh.
I think that's quite the leap. I mean, sure. Maybe she was sucking the entire board off. It's a bit of a leap, though.
Sucked the entire 13 years. I think that, and I have been very critical of BET in the past, but I think that if we put BET back then in today's culture, we'd have a different respect for it. BET was unapologetically Black, and it was the entire Black diaspora. It was the bottom of the Black to the top of the Black to the Caribbean Black to the educated Black. They tried to show up for everybody. I just think it was too much too soon. We were still trying to be respectable.
Ooh, I'm not mad at that.
We were still trying to say, oh, we don't want to look like that on TV. Don't do that.
Can't eat that chicken and watermelon in front of the white folks.
No, and I'm gonna eat, but we eat chicken and watermelon, no. But that's what we do. We eat that with hot sauce and French fries. You right? Oh, so why y'all mad?
I think for me, BET didn't go in terms of representing our culture. I think if you look at early days BET and the latter part of days of BET, it's completely two different. There was a period of time where you had quality programs like Ed Gordon on there, getting news and so forth, and then Tavis. You could get all, or at least a lot of information that you could not get nowhere else, because the internet wasn't what it is today. All of that, it was your source of truth when it came to the African American community. However, there was a period of time, and it'd be great to kind of look at what and where Bob Johnson was in relation to that. But there was a period of time where then it became Uncut. It became nothing but 106 in Park and all of those shows, and none of the substantive stuff that was outside of music.
But I think, and feel free to argue with me, right? So I'm very I don't want to say I'm anti-white, but I definitely like to call out when Black folks like to be white folks. To Erica's point, right? I think BET at some point was trying to chase behind MTV and VH1 in their programming, right?
Fair.
I think instead of being authentic to what they knew they should do, like the
ratings,
Caribbean show,
exactly,
the 106 in Park, which they weren't doing. They were trying to say, oh, MTV got road rage, we need to have a Black version of that instead of really being authentic to what people are. And I think that's still the downfall of BET to this day. I'm curious what
year did Viacom buy BET?
That's a really good question. There's a book called Brainwashed by Tom Burrow. Check it out. Okay, I get. Are you trying to imply that I'm brainwashed too? Is that because we agree a lot? So I'm a little surprised you're implying that I'm brainwashed. I was going somewhere. I don't remember. Fucking two. But I think that, so I'm curious because you know that Tyler Perry.
Yeah, I saw
the
that.
dude from the Weather Channel. Sorry,
Byron Allen.
And Diddy now.
Oh God.
Are all, you know,
damn.
are all trying to present. I don't hate the Diddy thing, right? I don't hate Diddy trying to be a part of it. I don't know why the three of those men don't sit together and figure out collaboratively how to buy it as a unit, because I think all three of them will make it very, very interesting, right? Because I think all three of them represent, while the Black community is made of many shades of gray, but I do think they represent some shades of gray. Like Byron Allen is very, very serious. Tyler Perry is very, very Tyler Perry. And Diddy is not very, very hip hop, but he does have some hip hop influence. So I think the three of them would be very, very interesting if they could figure out a way to all together bring this home. I don't know what Erica's looking for, because I'm about to wrap this thing. I'm about to land this damn plane.
I'm gonna have to put it on the internet.
I
was trying to figure out
when Viacom took over.
That should be like very easy information to find. I want to say it was like 2010.
I was 20. I just had it.
Seemed earlier than that.
Sorry.
It might have been like.
No, it's just a couple years ago.
Was it? Oh,
was it really?
Wait, well, a couple years in my world. Hold on. In my world. Viacom bought. Go, keep talking. Wrap it up.
All right. So,
somebody said 2010.
Thanks.
2010. I thought it was way before 2010. I'm sorry.
2010.
2000. Maybe perhaps it was 2000. Okay. Jamil, I am sorry. I am not Urban Dictionary. I do not know the information. Viacom is now owned by a larger parent. Well, that's not surprising. But Viacom from Paramount.
2001.
That sounds right.
But what's happening right now is that those three gentlemen are trying to buy the majority portion, but Paramount is going to remain. And maybe that's the parent company of Viacom is Paramount. Paramount is going to remain a minority stakeholder in BET. So we have gone around this bend. We have called Debra Lee a hoe and not a hoe. BET want to be for the white folks, and we needed to kind of round up. But back to the Debra Lee thing, to my earlier point, right? I think there's always something for us to examine within ourselves and to take away from it, right? So, Terrence, what do you think are the takeaways in this Debra Lee, Bob Johnson menagerie? I'm sure that's not the word, but I'm gonna go with it because it felt good right there. Okay.
I think the takeaways are that even on the highest level of playing fields, you know, the people that we sometimes put on pedestals are individuals. They are real individuals, real people with all of the shortcomings that we have just the same. I think we have to also, with that being said, is we got to give each other grace. We got to also do that with them as well. And I think that as well, if we just take their situation and try to apply it to our own lives, just try to be better individuals, you know, as we move forward and raise our boys and girls to
and let them cry. Let them boys cry.
Yeah.
She's a hoe sounds like a takeaway. God damn. Okay, Erica, is that your takeaway? That
no,
Debra Lee's a hoe?
No.
That's the takeaway?
No.
She's like, you ain't putting that on me.
But
fucking tune up, fucked up Erica's.
What I would like the takeaway to be is that people can be successful and flawed. One doesn't take away from the other. Also, I would like to take away, like the takeaway to be that just because a person doesn't live by your standards doesn't mean that they're immoral. Your standards are not, your personal convictions and standards are not the way that everybody has to live. They're the way that you have to live. So if you believe that that's wrong, then don't do it. But why you got to tell other people what to do based on what you believe to be true? Let people live, man. Debra and Bob did their thing. She told her story because she wanted to sell her books, and that's all right. It was the truth. She ain't lied.
And I'm surprised as a marketing person, you wouldn't like align with her doing it during Women's History Month.
And here's the reason why. because
It makes all the sense in the world.
I want to hear more about
Her career.
her career.
It's in the
It's
book.
in there.
It's in the book.
We ain't talking about that though. We talking about this bullshit.
You know why? Because everybody loves a good scandal.
Right.
True.
But I want to. Here's the thing: if I'm a woman, at least if I were a woman, and I want to know how I need to be successful, I want to hear how she handled that side of things.
No, I want to hear how she handled misogyny and
No, but
workplace
it's a-
harassment.
But I think how
So I'm
she-
about a book. I'm
how
going
she-
about a
how
book
she
right now.
reflecting on it now, it's not how she handled it because she obviously didn't handle it well.
Because it was a consensual relationship. It wasn't like what did y'all want to do? Not consent to it?
And I think it's an important lesson.
Would you do you think she would recommend women consent to it?
I don't think Debra Lee would put a dog in that fight because I think that's an individual idea.
That's a personal
but I think what she
decision.
would tell you is,
But if you're trying to mentor women, as she says, she's trying to hold herself out as an example for women.
but isn't that to Erica's point, right?
Mhm.
And to your point,
Mm-hmm.
that to hold yourself out an example, it's not just the good shit. It's the bad shit.
Mhm.
How you failed, how you fucked up,
Yes.
how you made a wrong decision and may not have recovered from that wrong decision, right? And
Mhm.
had to pivot.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I'm going to lean into, this
Yeah.
idea that we got to let go of Negroes being a certain way, right? I'm a strong proponent for Negroes being regular.
I agree with
Let that motherfucker be regular. Let that motherfucker be whack. Let that motherfucker, like we gotta let black people.
Hey, Marcus.
That's who does my eyelashes. Hey, baby. Hey.
Marcus did your eyelashes?
He does.
That's my baby. Hey, Marcus.
We know too many people in Carmen.
You had a moment there.
We
Yeah,
did.
I see him on Friday. Hey, Marcus.
I didn't even know you did lashes. I'm coming.
Yeah. But I think we just need to let black people be flawed. Let us be whack. Let us be poor. Let us be dumb. Like, let us all let go of this talented 10th fallacy, because it's none of us can live up to it. Even the fucking talented 10th can't be the talented 10th, right? Even the Debra Lees and the Bob Johnsons and the Robert Smiths, and that's the dude, that's the billionaire.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, all the
Yeah.
people. Like, I bet you if we dug, their asses are fucked up.
The
And-
white ones too.
They
I
all
don't give a fuck about white people. I'm sorry. I just be clear.
They
I don't give a
are
fuck about
human. They
them.
are human.
And we have to give people grace to be human and love them anyway.
I
Because
agree.
of it and in spite of it.
100%.
Because if we start digging up people's personal,
Shit, we be telling all types of fucked up shit. All types of fucked up. I mean, it's okay to be great too. Like we shoot to be great. We shoot to be brilliant. We shoot to be the best. I'm not negating that. But all of us cannot be great. All of us can't be rich. All of us can't drive a Benz. And we all just need to be okay with letting black folks be the entire spectrum of whatever that can be as being black.
humanity.
and
It's
I-
just being human.
I was gonna say, I would argue that, great still is flawed.
Yeah.
Great is still flawed. The problem is we think great is perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
That is the biggest problem right there. We
Yeah.
think great means
Yeah.
perfect. And we don't allow for anything other than
Yeah.
perfect. And then when we see those imperfections, now all of a sudden,
You made $1 billion. Who gives a fuck? You got the nanny pregnant. Like, no, but that's real. And I so appreciate you came from being a bro. You came over to our side.
Thank you for
I don't know if I want coming on to your side.
You came a little bit further this
Yes.
a little bit.
A little bit.
further.
But thank you guys. The conversation went as I wanted it to.
Oh, good.
I wanted it to be a little bit more complex than Debra Lee's a hoe. Because I'm leaning into that. But I think my goal for this year is for us to have complex conversations to really start looking to challenge how we think about things. That includes me, right?
Yeah.
Challenge how we think about men, challenge how we think about women, challenge how we think about black folks, our heroes, everything. Start challenging ourselves. And I really appreciate you guys because you help foster that level of conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
So
welcome.
much.
Thank
I hope
you.
you had fun in some of the fuckery and seriousness. And And next week, yes, it will be a fuckery show because I feel like we ain't had one in a little while. And
invite me to one of those.
Next week, we're going to talk about why women don't apologize. You want to come and talk
to
about
because women do apologize.
I agree.
I apologize all the time.
Can I come for that?
Absolutely.
Man.
You can only come. I ain't gonna deal with that lie.
We've had people come on 3 weeks in a row.
I'm just joking. But yeah.
So next week we will talk about why women don't apologize.
Wow. I'm gonna have to tune in.
Spoiler alert! I don't agree with this perspective at all, but I'm willing to listen.
Is that
no women will be on the show.
It is
that sounds like
gotta be him.
Man, that sounds like him.
I'm coming. I'm gonna hold up a card that says misogyny every 5 seconds.
And the week after that, we're gonna talk about, do women want to feminize men?
I ain't coming to that either because that's a lie too.
Who said I thought this shit? I just want to have a conversation about it.
I'm not participating in no lie conversations.
But again, wait a minute. The topic of the show was Debra Lee a hoe, and yet here you are.
Because I had to talk about how she ain't.
She had a flag. She ain't a hoe. She ain't a
hoe.
All right, well, thank you, ITZ. I so appreciate you guys. To Jamil, Marcus, B, Ron. Love your guys' commentary. You guys are so smart. I always love our audience. Always have great commentary. And we will see you next week to talk about why women don't apologize. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Take care.